Hi, and welcome to this week's weekly reflection. I originally planned to talk a little bit about the environment and climate because I kind of make a plan for what could be interesting to talk about. But I also want to be able to talk about something which has happened during the week or something which is on top of my mind for some reason. And of course, this week we won the best co-working space in the Nordics at the Nordic Startup Awards, which was awesome. So of course that's kind of on top of mind instead, which is it's cool, and it's made me think about a lot about actually like community and what might be different with what we do and how do you actually build a community. And I've been invited to actually talk about community building at different events over the years. And I think that's partly related to just because I've been involved in different communities in different ways. But I also think it's about trying to make conclusions, like okay, what does actually work and how do you actually build a community. And with Mindpark, for example, it's a very mixed and varied community. It's a very open community, and that's one of the things we actually emphasize a lot. Like we want to make people feel welcome. Like that's super important. And whenever there's something with community, the problem you have is that community is by definition a group of people, and you want them to feel something together. And the problem here is that automatically makes it exclusive in one way or another. Like you cannot have a community unless there's some kind of border or some kind of draw a line somewhere. Who's going to be included and who's going to be excluded? Because even if you don't want to exclude somebody on purpose, you will indirectly exclude somebody just because of that some people will feel included and others will perceive them there to be a border or to be some kind of friction in order to get in, even if there isn't. And this is something I've spent a lot of time thinking about because I've seen it so much over the years as well, and so many different within the startup scene, within entrepreneurship, within different regions as well, and different ways. And for me, I think in order to build a good community, you need to be as welcome as possible, and you actually need to build in mechanisms in order to get outsiders to feel welcome, because a lot of the times a community or something just makes it instead so that they say, everybody's welcome. But that's not enough. Just saying everybody's welcome will not make everybody feel welcome. It's so much more about like the first meeting, like the first interactions. Like, okay, somebody steps in through the doors. Like, okay, how can we make that person feel welcome? Or somebody attends a first meeting. Okay, how can we make sure that that person is welcome and feels welcome? So you actually need to put energy into it. You cannot just say we're open to outsiders or we're open to new members or whatever purpose your community has, but you actually need to put energy into making people feel welcome. And that's something a lot of people forget along the way, just because you kind of that everybody is welcome, and people enter every now and then, so like people cross those barriers by themselves in one way or another, so you have a feeling of this actually works. But I've seen it so many times that like this creates kind of the stagnation. Like there's not enough new members coming in, or there's not enough new people being engaged in the community. So this is a crucial advice for having a community. And another crucial advice, which I always also think about and tell others if they want my opinion about it, is that when you have new members, you also need to make them feel welcome. And that's just two steps. So there's a step before they are they perceive themselves as members, or they become members, or whatever mechanisms you have. But even then, once they are inside, you need to make them also feel welcome there again in another way. And one of the best things you can do is actually try to get input. Like, okay, what should we improve? How should we do things better? Ask for advice, ask for things to kind of enhance in one way or another. And here's the challenge, is that like 90% of the stuff that a new member or a new person in the community will say will be something you've already tried, something you instantly know, like this will not work, etc. Just because you have so much more information than they have. But you need to encourage that anyway. So even if 90% is is like nothing which actually is of value for you, you still need to be thankful, because the 10% which of the things they say might actually be really valuable. That might be like things which, okay, wait, if we don't change this, then this might actually cause us troubles along the way, or other important things. So you need to be accepting of those 90%, and because you don't want to kill motivation, so you cannot just say, sorry, we already tried that. You need to kind of embrace it anyway and say, okay, interesting idea, or okay, what can we do with this? And when answering those kind of questions, there also are multiple layers of how to do it. So for example, one way of answering is the worst way of answering is kind of to say, sorry, that's already been tried. A better way of answering is, of course, to just say, cool idea. I like where your thoughts come from. So like not negating it, but encouraging instead that there's something there. But the best way, if there's time, is actually to say, cool idea. I like where that's coming from, but I see these problems with the idea. Or we once did something which we thought would solve this, but that it didn't solve the problem. It's like giving them more information, because the more information you give them, the better they can then improve on their feedback or their ideas. But this of course takes more time. But the more you can get like people engaged and involved, the better. And I usually, like for organizations, even like for bigger organizations or for member-driven organizations, my usual advice is that, like, if people don't complain about how things are and how things are run, then you don't have a community. Like people need to be so much engaged that they complain. That's like super important. Or that they complain can be different things, but you need to get that feedback. If people don't give you feedback, like it's not strong, then there can be a lot more strengths to build into that. So yeah, that's some of my thoughts on community building and communities. Hope you enjoyed. Thank you for listening.